the ultimate goal is make that customer into a raving fan, and then use that to basically drive more traffic in and drive more higher quality converting leads into the top of the funnel, and obviously keep that customer for life.
On this episode of Brews BizDev, I talk with Matt Barnett, Papa Bear at Bonjoro. We enjoy a couple stouts and talk about a few things like simplifying, improving, and scaling your customer success, how Matt knew to create one business and go in on it out of a problem he solved for another business, and the importance of automating process, not relationships. Thanks for watching and enjoy.
Thanks for joining us, Matt. How's it going today?
It is good. It's a beautiful sunny morning here in Australia. So raring to go.
We are split. So we are, I am late Friday afternoon here, and you are early Saturday morning. We're going to drink some beer anyway.
All right, we're going to drink some beer anyway. I've mentally accepted the fact that it's okay to wake up with a beer instead of coffee.
Yeah, and in this case, it's professionally responsible, so it's really, it's you doing your part to move everything forward, which we specifically chose stouts because the way I see it, that's kind of a meal anyway. So yeah, I mean, they have breakfast stouts, right? So that's
exactly.
Yeah. So all right, well, let's hit that part first. What beer, which brew have you chosen for what you're
I actually went with the Young's double chocolate stout.
Okay.
Which is a British beer that I managed to find here. Well, I'm actually from the UK originally. So it's a sweeter stout. I've had a few before, but we'll see.
Okay.
Can't quite remember.
Cool. I'm sporting the concentrated dark matter by Upstate Brewing Company. I've never had this before. I picked it at the store today and said, you know what? I don't know stouts all that well. This is actually a coffee stout, an imperial coffee stout, so it might as well be British, right?
Coffee stouts are like you gotta be lucky. I feel like so some of them are great.
Yeah.
But some of them just taste like someone's poured coffee into stouts. So like it's 50-50 on the coffee stouts.
Yeah, well, we're taking a risk, but let's crack it open. Cheers.
Cheers. I was trying to find a milk stout. Those are the best, but
yeah, that smells good. Yeah. No, this is definitely not the crappy mix of beer and coffee kind of stout. This is nice.
There you go. This is very chocolatey. It's delicious actually.
And this has an 8.5 on the ABV. So by the bottom of this pint, and in our conversation somewhere, I'm gonna be looser at the end than I am at the beginning.
I'm a 5.2. So
you're more in the normal range of Well, stouts are often pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a milk stout there, and the guy was not all that keen on. I said, well, let's not go with that one then.
I think again can be good, but like if you get one of the good coffee stouts, they're awesome.
Yeah,
I've just had some bad experiences. So
yeah, yes, yeah, those can get in the way after a while. So all right, now that we got the important beer stuff out of the way, why don't you give us your elevator pitch, right? Like give the quick version. Who are you? What's your company about? What are you up to? Fun stuff.
I'm Matt. I'm the Papa Bear at the company called Bonjoro. So we do one-to-one personalized video messages. So these are video messages that are sent to individuals. So if Jenny signs up for ConvertKit in Oklahoma, you're sending a video to Jenny from Oklahoma, and they're used to drive more conversions of leads, more activations of paid customers, and then drive reviews and referrals at the end of the funnel. What we found is that taking 30 seconds to send a video to an individual tends to get about 3 times the response or engagement rates, which obviously leads to higher end conversions, activations, and retention.
I mean, if you're looking for those things, that's fine.
if those things matter to you, who knows?
If not, what are you even watching this for? You must really like beer. Cool. Yeah, no, it's and it's interesting because this doesn't always happen, certainly on the show or anywhere else. But I used for a short while, and then we just changed approaches altogether. The products a year or two ago, I was working at a video agency, basically a production company that we're turning into something else pre-COVID, and we were looking at different options. I had the insane idea that as a video company, if we're going to be doing outreach, maybe we should do that with video, right? And so we should try see what's out there and float it, and and we did do I did do some limited outreach. Then we changed our whole marketing model altogether, and then it made all of it irrelevant. So it wasn't about like, oh, this product didn't get it done. We just kind of did something else after that. But off of one event, where we had, the standard pre-COVID thing, networking kind of room, right? You go in there,
back in the real world,
progressive networking wasn't that bad. Made some contacts, made some connections, did the follow-up with Bonjoro instead of just doing the normal emails. And yeah, certainly there were a number of responses that was probably half the reason for the response, right? Is like, otherwise they would have ignored me like everyone does to everyone else after all those kinds of events, unless you really have a pressing need, you're like, yeah, nice to meet you too. We should talk next year, whenever that is. And it's not always this late in the year, right? But, a couple people in particular were like, oh, cool video. That was really fun. And like, yeah, sure, let's meet. And given my own, this is anecdotal, right? But certainly a higher and more enthusiastic response than if you're just sending emails or like LinkedIn messages or whatever it might be, right? Out. It adds a layer of personalization. And I'm here sitting in Buffalo, New York, which may or may not be the most progressive, forward-facing market that's ever existed, and so where people are not used to anything like that, it gives it that kind of like, which is nice, because sometimes that's all the edge you need to get in the door. But of course, there's also customer stuff, right? So I know we want to kind of get into that, because here at Renown, we're big into customer success. We brand ourselves as the customer success agency, and it looks to me like you're starting to kind of see a lot of value in that domain for Bonjoro, right? Whereas sure, can you do this for outreach? Can you do it for lead gen? Like, of course, but also like, what a great way to engage with the people you're already engaged with, to engage your customers, to add some extra value and personal touch to them. And, for certainly upsell reasons, but just for great customer experience reasons. So can you speak to that a little bit about like what you've seen in the world of customer success with the platform?
Yeah, and to be frank, customer success is generally where we use mostly. So again, like you said, video can be done for outbound. There's a cost and there's a response rate you're going to get anyway. So or even if it's more effective, you still have to hit 50 people. There's a time element here. At that point as well, I think one of the things we always say is like, we're not really a video company. Mm-hmm. What we're actually doing is giving you a way to, like, at scale, spend 30 seconds or a minute connecting with customers. And so from their point of view, it's actually about the time. I think it's more important than the video. The video is a medium that gets us across the fact you've done this, but it's the fact that you're willing to stop and communicate where others potentially wouldn't. So within customer success, where very simply, where we generally get used. So I would suggest any new customer coming in for the first time, it's about making your best first impression. So connecting that customer to one of your CS team. So one CS team reaches out and they're like, look, if you need help, we're human and we're here. And that has a very, especially in industries like SaaS and e-commerce, where they're not relationship based, it's all about the scale and the funnel. Mm-hmm. This kind of shocks people out of that, and they're like, oh, there's a team here, and then they're in the human, they obviously are there to talk. Yeah. That's cool, because that's a competitive advantage. And then you look at other industries like services, which are relationship based, and it's just obviously building on that side of things. So I think you look at making your best first impression, and when you do this, what you're actually looking for is activation as well. So when you record these videos, they're not off the cuff. We actually plug into any CRM you use, any system, so Intercom, Shopify, HubSpot, you name it. And what we'll do is we'll show you what that customer's performed to date. Mm-hmm. So when you're doing a video, you're saying, hey, Jenny, just want to say, well, welcome aboard. Awesome to have you with us. By the way, I saw you did, onboarding steps 1, 2, 3, but I see you haven't done 5 and 6, which are really crucial to get success. So Here's a link to go and do the next step. And if you need help, let me know. So again, this is top funnel customer success. The number one job is to get customers active in those first few, whatever it is, the first few days, first few weeks, for the first few months, when they're trialing and becoming a customer. And so you're trying to drive them to the next step and do that in a more effective manner. And so these work really well there. I think after that, you're then starting to get into the realm of retention, which is all about reducing churn. So this is about keeping constant contact, dropping in to customers at certain points. And generally, this is around milestones. It might be product driven. So they might hit certain product milestones, or they might hit time milestones. A year in, you're sending out videos and thanking customers, reminding them that you're there. And again, it's just to push that relationship again and be like, look, we're here to help. So by doing this, there's many things that come into play. One of those is if a customer has a bad time and they have and they get stuck or get frustrated, if you've made the human connection, they're not just going to come and rant on the email. They're going to come and ask for help because they remember there's people there.
Yes.
And there's always bypass. And the last piece, which to be fair, I think is the most exciting piece, is the idea of then taking these customers, turning them into super fans and advocates, and then getting them to start to do stuff for you, which could be leaving you referrals, doing reviews, doing case studies, spreading the word to other customers. And I think, this is it's not you're doing one point that gets anything to happen. I think if you have a wonderful customer journey, and this is all comms, like beyond just video as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ultimate goal is make that customer into a raving fan, and then use that to basically drive more traffic in and drive more higher quality converting leads into the top of the funnel, and obviously keep that customer for life.
Yes. Yeah. No, for sure.
So there's a lot. So there's like a lot in one go. So if you want to dig into pieces.
Yeah, no, I think that we'll start kind of there at the end, because I think we've got all the commonality there, because you're talking about, there's a lot of different models out there for what the funnel and the journey and the whatever, and we're a HubSpot agency partner, so we're into flywheels around here, right? But that's where that's the concept you're just talking about, right? Is that it's not about like, oh, look, and you have this process and it dumps the customer out at the end, and then you're done and you start back, over, which is where marketing agencies live, and certainly sales folks live, but about focusing on customer success, because as HubSpot alludes to with the flywheel concept, like it powers itself. Right. The point is that would power itself, where if you're focusing on what actually works for your customer, and and if you're in B2B, their customer actually right through them, right? And like, so your customer's happy, so then they're engaged, they're excited, they're sharing, they're promoting what's coming in the top of your funnel, that new traffic, what's restarting that flywheel is coming from those customers, and all you're putting your attention on is creating a better experience and having your customers be more successful. And then we have different tactics, we have different media, right, that we'd use. Like you're saying, there's video, there's however you want to communicate, and there's the marketing kind of component, there's a sales component, but those are actually all just pieces of the name of the game here, is to create successful and happy customers.
Yeah.
And them, and then their customers. And so this is a tool designed to, improve that experience, to up that in a level where, as you mentioned, some of those spaces are, people are used to the impersonal, right? They're in the world of SaaS. Some people think it's like a badge of honor that they don't have anyone answering a phone anywhere. And great, if that's what your model is, like, so be it. But the idea that it's a win, that you've pulled humanity out of the process, when we know for sure at some point there's going to be humanity required in the process. That's, having that face, having the personal touch of a video of a human who actually recorded it, pre deep fake world, where we know we're pretty damn sure that's a real person talking to us.
So. Yeah.
That's, the bots aren't that clever yet, but give it 2 years. That creates a certain kind of experience that you're not going to get with other apps or whatever platforms or whatever the other kind of your SaaS competitors are. So in first, I'm curious as to what you saw that had you, because even I feel like even when I was like, when I used the product a couple of years ago, it was still most of the messaging and most of the direction seem to be about, the marketing side, right? The outbound side, like the reaching out to people. So it seems like you've seen something and you've moved into a more explicit focus in the world of customer success. I'm curious, is that because that's just where people started using it and where you saw, like where it seemed to be like, well, this is what people are doing with it? Or was it because you intentionally put it in that direction because you could see that that's, like you said, lead gen, great. You can do cold outbound with it. It is going to be better, but like 3 out of a million instead of 1 out of a million, is maybe not the best, So did you go there intentionally because you saw the value was higher, or were people just naturally starting to use this for customer success and you said, let's go with it?
That's very much it's where it gets used. So and even to different industries, and why they use it. We tend to work with SaaS education services, and e-coms are kind of like the 4 areas that use us.
Okay.
SaaS and e-coms, it's industries that don't do personalization, and that's why they're being used there. Services education are actually super highly personal, like relationship-driven industries. So it's just augmenting that and kind of making sure that works well, which is So it's funny. It's used for 2 different reasons and 2 different areas.
Almost opposite, right? Like because it's personal and because it's all personal, those are the groups that are using. Yeah.
Nothing in the middle. Nothing in the middle. So, and so you got to look at the other things. So like we ask like a time input. Yeah. So each of these videos takes 30 seconds to 1 minute. The whole process is taken care of, So we'll tell you when to send one. We'll give you the information about the customer. Once you finish recording, we'll deliver it for you. We'll include the specific links for each different customer, etc. So it's very easy to do. So the idea was like, how do you scale this? But there's still a 30 second to 1 minute like time ask from a user. And therefore you go look at that and you go, well, where, filtering down through funnels, where does that make sense to put it in? Now for some, again, outbound, it probably doesn't make sense for the majority of you, Once people come into a funnel, yes, it starts to make more sense. If you have a huge funnel, it actually is, they come into the funnel and they're a product qualified lead, and then we use those ones. So again, you narrow it down further. And so you focus down on your ICP, your ideal customer profile, or your product qualified leads, or your sales qualified leads. So again, where do you want to put the time? And it sounds bad, but it's not. It's almost where, like, how much time do you need to invest to make that connection with the customer?
Yeah.
And it's not. So here's the thing. It's not a automated email saying, "Hey, Bob," and it's not a phone call or a coffee or a meeting. And it's actually towards the kind of quick side. But I think just the idea of these guys care. Like, check. Like, good. Yeah. Like that's basically what you're buying. This then starts a relationship they can obviously build from that point. But I think the most common case is that first touch point, because it just kickstarts the relationship into another area. It's more engaging. You'll get more responses that then lead to, you being able to take that customer through that first 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So now you have another business as well, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what's that? Tell us about that quickly. We're not going to go that too far into it, but I just want to get into you and then some advice so that people can get some value out of the conversation. So to open the field a little bit, what else are you involved in?
Yeah, so we have a research tech company, or basically what we use video for qualitative research. This company actually birthed the other company because we were trying to do lead gen with it. Nice. But we essentially will work with large FMCG, large brands, generally out of like New York, Paris, like London, and they're using it for new product development, qualitative research. So for instance, Huggies will want to talk to mothers in Brazil, Argentina, Japan, Korea, Australia, US, and Germany. And what they'll do is they'll be sending out questions, and then mothers will be actually recording videos on a daily basis for like 3 days. They'll do this video diary, and they'll take their camera shopping with them, and they'll film them changing their kids and the challenges and the issues they have and where they store these, and they'll talk through brand impressions. And this is research that comes in overnight. It's not focus groups. It's a lot faster, and it's a lot more cost effective. And then using that to influence new product development. And we tend to get it, and that's used right at the early kind of creative stages. And so we work with, most of your top 50 companies in terms of FMCG around the world on that.
Right.
But that is headquartered. So we're headquartered in Australia-ish. That's headquartered in Europe because that's the industry. Yeah. Very different businesses. One is inbound. So Bonjoro is inbound 100%.
Mhm.
The other one is outbound, 100%, because
Yeah.
it's large corporates, and then we tend to work in SMBs mostly.
Right. And I'm curious, because I was guessing there was a kind of connection here, and you said it right. And we created this other company, which fell out of you coming up with tactics to do your outreach, right? So, like, can you talk a little bit about how then this came to be as you were, thinking you're working on this, and then this other thing just starts to take form? Like, when did you notice, like, oh, wait a second, this is a thing on its own? And then what has you, because we only have so much attention, you only have so much time, you only have so much resources, what did you notice at first, and then what had you say, what, this is worth actually creating something else?
Yeah, so that other company is sales process. So we're pitching into, say, FMCG teams and agencies. I was the guy who would pitch the agencies because I'm very much a jazz hands kind of creative guy, and that worked there. My business partner is very stoic and intelligent. He goes to the research guys. Yeah, so I was like, brand agencies, me. Like, if I get in the room, like we get them. Like, that's how it works. We're good at sales.
Yeah.
But being in Australia, and again, like from the UK originally, I just moved here to surf when I was a kid. All our customers are in other countries because there's not. Like, Australia's a great place to live, but no one lives here. So
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's emptier. So all those large clients, always big corporates, are all in, say, Paris, France, London, New York, and so we'd always have these leads coming in at nighttime, and we're asleep here, And so we were looking to get connections, and obviously when a lead comes in and it's inbound, they'll be talking to a few different people at the same time, and whoever gets back first, you can't just pick up a phone call.
Yeah.
So I would take a boat to the office that would go past the Opera House. So we have ferries here in the harbor. And I was like, I'm going to send a video to every lead we get in every single night. And so I do a video for like John Archer from Ogilvy in London. And I'm like, hey, John, I saw you came in last night. I'm on a boat. There's the Opera House. Obviously not in London, but we've worked with the Budweiser team in New Orleans and here and here and here, which I see you're the cat holder for. This is the kind of stuff we've done. I'm going to be in London in 2 weeks' time. Can we come in and chat to you? And we just sent this off, and this will be the first piece of comms I ever got from that company. And we were doing it to try, because we need to get responses to take it to the next level, and we tripled our responses off the bat. And I don't think any of them could actually hear me because I have like wind in my face. I'd be half asleep. It'd be like 7 a.m.
Yeah, outside.
And they were like, I don't know what you said, but you mentioned Budweiser. This is hilarious. They were like, just come in and see us. Mm-hmm. And so we started going, and we won it. And then I think one of those clients was like, this video email thing, can we use that? And we were like, oh, well, you can't, but we can. And so I came back to Australia, and I have a CTO here, and I was like, so we should build this. And he was like, I effing knew you were going to say that, because he's like overloaded anyway, and he's like, I don't have the time. He's like, seriously? And I'm like, come on, man. So we got some beers, stayed in for like 4 days over a weekend, and we built something they could use. And then they started sending them, and then other people just started coming in, and we're like, hey, let's put a paywall here. And then people started paying us, and I was like, I like money. And then turns out it made more money. It overtook the original business in like 18 months.
Wow.
I also think that that's the power of inbound. And again, they're very different models. And so we look to today and where it was a big jump to do that. It was kind of, obviously it's a risk. It's interesting. If you look at the last year where, research budgets are discretionary and so have been hit by COVID, whereas comms has been a challenge. And so we've actually so the one business now, it's like, they've supported each other and kind of flipped and having that. I mean, I look back and I'm like, it was a massive risk, but it was absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah. That's a long story. From windy ferry videos to a full business that overtakes the original business revenue wise. That's and what kind of, what time frame is that? Is that like a 2 year span?
So we launched Bonjoro 2017.
Okay.
And it overtook the first one. I think it took 18 months. Okay. I actually switched out and went into the other one full time. Me and my CTO switched out and put a team on the existing piece.
Yeah.
Because we're product guys, and I think we jumped after about 8 months. So we had as a side project that just we didn't focus on it. It just happened.
Yeah.
And then there comes a point when you're like, okay, there's a revenue element. We can start to hire people onto that, and then we're like, it needs some serious direction. I think we saw the inflection point in the growth curve, and we're like, this is gonna go faster. So let's pour fuel on the fire.
Yeah. Let's just go in here. Okay. And how it's interesting because I was just having this happens to be a lineup. I just did one of these like just before this one. So it's a back-to-back podcast day. That was a coffee episode. So I'm pouring beer on top of coffee in my stomach. Luckily it's a coffee stout. So it all goes well together. But it's interesting because, and I didn't see this coming, but we got into a similar conversation where, we're talking about, cause we're talking like a side hustle in that case. It was just like something he was just doing on the side for kicks. And then it starts to pick up steam. Right. And then suddenly people start coming at you and you get these opportunities. And I'm curious about, especially like in this country, like the whole entrepreneurial thing is, big in the culture, right? We got Shark Tank and everything is like, hey, start your own thing and be your own. And sometimes that's a great idea. Sometimes not so much, right? And so I'm curious as to getting perspective of people who have started things, especially multiple things that have gone well, and then branched off about what you see that has that be the realization, right? Like what you see that it's like, oh, this is something now worth investing in. This is something where maybe we should lean in over here instead, start putting the resources there. And you talked about that inflection point. You talked about like you could see the build and the potential, the velocity potential, right, of it ramping up, being much higher. And there are times when sometimes those are false opportunities, right? Sometimes you just happen to have hit a few things and you hit a nice spot, but then it disappears, right? And then some people are left like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have just left this other thing sitting over here. And so I'm wondering if there's any perspective you can give on when you've got something that's at the very least stable, right? And this is not to say that it was only stable for you, but if something's already working, how do you know whether or not to go in a different direction with something? How do you know actual opportunity versus shiny object syndrome, good idea syndrome, right? Like what's a good test for you? What could you put out there for people to hopefully save them some heartache?
Get some money off customers before you build anything. It's my number one thing. So if people won't put their money where their mouth, and this is obviously biased towards B2B stuff, people won't put money where their mouth is, then like that's the thing that matters, and not your mum or your aunt, like real customers, and then repeat that. So and by the way, like I've failed a few businesses. This is not like we can't like this is not like it's a learning curve. You're gonna make mistakes anyway. We've done this shiny object thing. I think, look, doing the second business for us, it was scary because we're like, the other one was going well, and we're like, and we're looking to build that, and I'm like, we can't. It's really hard to fund too, especially when the one's not making the revenues yet. But the triggers we look at, it was like, were people paying? Yeah, yes, they were. Was that happening with very little input from us, initially? Yes. And was it growing, and were people coming in, finding out about it without us talking about it or pushing it as a side project? And so I think if you see, for us, it was like, okay, well, if that's happening, anyway, and they're getting value, and then you watch the activity. You watch, like, are they staying with it? Are they actually using it? Or are they just paying and going away? Activity over money's good, activity's better. So like, are they using your products, like especially for your software? Are they coming back again and again? Are they coming to you and saying this is effing amazing? Are they telling their friends? Because if that's happening, which was happening to us, that's not just that you sold me a small lead, it's you sold me a bigger lead, and suddenly these things start to come in. And then we got picked up by like quite a few influencers, like Pat Flynn, who's big in the States, kind of hopped on board. Like, I've never heard of him. I was like, who's this Pat guy? And then he came on, and suddenly he starts talking about on stage, and thousands more signups come in. And so like for us, it was very quick that it was going. And so you look at that and you go, what are we even building here? Beginning with we're video, and I'm like, we actually are not video. It took us a long time to figure out we're not doing video here. It's about comms, about personalization. But there comes a point when we even probably left it too late before we jumped onto it. Like, I would say, because we had the other business, that probably held us back. If this had been our only one, you'd have gone earlier. I think there's also, so like, those signals are clear. Yeah. So growth percentages, how fast are you going per month? And this is users coming board. is extremely important. Is that continual? With the whole like customer base, so are people talking about you? Are they ranting about you? Are they telling you it's great? Are they paying you money?
Yeah.
So just how engaged are they? Not like, oh, this is all right. Like if they love it and you're helping, like in a big way, get on the phone to those customers and talk to them. Talk to 10, talk to 50, talk to 100. Understand really if you're adding value. And then look how long they pay for. If they pay for more than 3-6 months, they're probably going to stay longer. Yeah. I think on top of all that, the one thing I will say is that you know, on the other side, and you said like you can start a product and it can start to die off, and then you think, oh no. There's also trying to work out who your market is. So you actually might have things can die off, not because of the product's fault, but because you're talking to the wrong customers, or you had the wrong market, or you had the wrong price point, or et cetera, et cetera. You know, the video product we built for research, we originally using it in like events, I think, and we got that wrong, and then we went to like research agencies, and that didn't work. And then we ended up finding out a way into brand agencies, and it worked perfectly. And then we found a way into FMCG. And we tried all corporates, telcos, everything. Yeah. And it turns out it was FMCGs. So and we were able to fund ourselves to get through that learning curve. But if, you know, the customers on day one are absolutely not the customers we ended up with. So if we'd carried on that route, we would have killed the company. We were able to just shotgun and go, where are we getting, you know, like uplift, and then going there.
Yeah.
Bonjoro was easier. Like I'll be honest, which is why we're like, oh, we've never had this before. Right. It has its own challenges. So it has a different problem set, different challenge set that come with it. But so like take your signals, but also if you haven't done enough to see if the signals are there, do more anyway. Like don't give up straight away, and then get some money off people.
Yeah, that helps.
I like money.
Proof. Yeah, money's great proof. Great business proof that your business is legitimate. That people are paying money. Yeah. So activity, money, a lot of engagement, and sharing. Right, being, you know, some pretty good markers. Sharing, advocating, whatever that is, which then of course lends itself to, and you spoke to this, the whole inbound phenomenon. Right. So it being an inbound play makes itself clear at the beginning because it's inbound on its own almost at first, right? Just from the little you put out there, you start getting stuff coming at you because of how people engage and because of how they're sharing it. And then I assume then you've just kind of gone with that model. I mean, have you added any outbound to how Bonjoro is growing, or are you trying to stick at least mainly with that inbound approach?
So I think we spent $1 on marketing for the first 3 years. We now now we're doing more partnership stuff. But we actually like integrate technically as well. So we integrate into Active Campaign and stuff. So we're doing more partnership stuff. I wouldn't say it's outbound, but it's more BizDev, I think. You can kind of class it as. But that's also like, there's also like product benefits to our users. So there's multiple benefits there. That's kind of where we are now. And by the way, like if you have an inbound funnel, it means there's like at some point you need to test outbound because you can always do sales and you can always do inbound. So if you're a sales organization, there will be an inbound piece for you. If you're inbound, people generally pick one or the other to start with. You'll find one works. But like I know there's a sales tactic for us. At some point, it's a case of when you want to invest now and when you want to grow and when the time is right. So for us, we're probably still early on that. We're still probably maxing out on that. Like we've just started testing paid, like a bit of paid ad stuff.
Okay.
And we do not know what we're doing, and it looks really good. And I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, cool.
I'm like, there's probably another channel here, but you know, there's so many channels, and you tested so few that, of course, there are other channels, and some channels are finite, and so you need to find other channels. I think, you know, we found generally we don't run more than 3 channels at a time. So we'll normally have 2 that are working and 1 that we're testing. And then we'll run those, and then we'll start to test another one. You know, we don't do 100 things. We try and focus down. It's just easier. Yeah,
easier, and it tends to make more sense and be more efficient. And you can actually learn from it. So that's that. So what do you think then is? So what's something? And you mentioned you've had like you clarified, like, listen, we've had some failed businesses too, right? So this is not the like, listen, I did these 2 things and we're killing it conversation. You know, there have been some barriers you've hit, you've had some failures, and then you've had some successes here, and you're in the midst of one. So what if you had one thing to warn against, you know, so if we're talking right now to someone's watching or listening who, whether or not they've got a side thing they're splitting off from, or they're just starting something that's just starting to get traction, you know, and if you had one piece of advice right before you died, right? Like, you know, like, oh, I'm about to get wiped out here. Here's one thing you need to avoid, and then here's what you should do about it. What would be the one thing for the the growing entrepreneur business? And let's just say he's in a space, you know, let's say he's in they're in SaaS, right, or something tech related, so something that we're familiar with. Like, what's the like, watch out for this fucking thing for sure? What's that one thing?
So when it comes to customers, like, don't make any assumptions. So what I mean there is, like, the first business we tried, awesome story. We were doing something like, it was like emotion story. We had loads of times, a load of paid users, non-user products. And we were like, everyone loves the idea, but when it came to it, people were not becoming habitual, activating. And we assumed that they loved the idea meant that they would use it. And that was a completely flawed assumption. And we went off in this bubble and failed because of it. And we raised money, did everything, like the whole lot, founder breakups, everything. And so I think you do not have, like, every assumption you have to get data behind it to prove that it's right. If you're not talking to customers, like, you're an idiot. Like, if you're not talking to potential customers, like do not build in the box, and you know, and they will come.
Yeah.
This compound, like, release early. If you're starting off, don't invest a lot of money. Get it out the door fast, because you'll find out if people are actually going to use it or not. That kills those assumptions, or it builds the assumptions that, you know, people will use it. Don't work for a year and release something. I don't see the point. Release something tomorrow. Release it as like InVision, click dummy, like whatever you want to do. Will people go through and do the things you thought they'd do? And if they don't do it, then go back and change and talk to them. I think failures all come from assumptions. I think that's everything.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Man, these are some themes that emerge. Some themes that emerge, and some themes that are always going to be themes, right, in business and marketing forever. Like, try understanding your customer. Like, actually, right? Like, try speaking to them, try communicating with them, see what they do, what they don't do, and don't fill in too many gaps, or you're saying none at all, with your own made up assumptions, right? That's been a theme in the last conversation. I was talking, we had a presentation earlier this week through a thing that's attached to a business school here, the UB CEL program. And I think we hit, you know, something like know your customer 6 or 7 times throughout an hour long, you know, talk type thing. And still, it's interesting because you'd be in a room or just talk with people, and you see that they don't. It's like, oh yeah, no, obviously, but. And then, you know, go into some conversation that's clearly based on assumptions that clearly, you know, like, they don't have like the knowledge of it. They you know, we have something that we think is going to be great. We love it. We're good at it, right? Or both. You know, we're good at doing this and we love it, and we think other people will too. And so, assuming they are, you know, which tactics should we use, right? Like, what should our subject lines be in our email, our cold emails? It's just like, shit, we just talked for an hour about knowing your customer and inbound marketing. So I'm not sure why you're asking about cold outbound, you know, kind of ideas, and you don't know your customer, right? Like, you can tell that that's such a basic idea that I feel like we miss it, right? It's one of those things that it's so basic and so fundamental that we forget it because we get so close to our own businesses, our own products, our own services, that it's very hard to not make those assumptions, or to even notice that I've made them in the first place. You know, it's that blind spot. It's
fine to take leaps of faith. So you need to have leaps of faith. Yeah. And boy, like, your customers do not always know what they need as well, which is basically hard again. So you can't ask them for the ideas. You have to be able to go, this. You have to make, like, as a product designer, as a developer, as the entrepreneur, whatever you are, you need to make those jumps, and that's how you'll be successful, because others won't make the jumps. But once you've made the jumps, okay, so we think this is the thing. get it to the earliest state that you can test that. And this is where your CS team, because as you go business, you're continually building a new product. Your CS team at the front line, like, get them involved, because they'll be like, this is, our users aren't going to be able to get across this. And then also, when you are ready, you can go, can you go and find me 30 users? I want a broad range from, ones with high understanding to low understanding. Can you get me and let's put it in their hands? And then they'll come back and they'll they're like an amazing resource. If you don't have a CS team, like, seriously, like, build one. Like you need ones now. Customer success are really valuable in product development because of this. I would say that their data is off thousands of conversations with customers. So so their assumptions are actually data backed from having, like, because they understand your customers intimately,
right?
And so I think use them as a data source as well. And so try again, like it's all about data. Yeah, like, get as much data as you can. You will need to make leaps. That's fine,
of course,
but make them and then test them, and then make them again, test them again.
And make them off of some kind of grounding, right?
Exactly.
A grounded assumption or a grounded assessments and a hypothesis is different than an assumption or just like a dream, right? So, like, try it out, test it, but keep in mind you've made it up, and get ready to let it go if you're wrong, which is, would be great if humans were better at that in general, probably. It's not just in business that we could use that skill.
That takes a lifetime to learn. I don't think anyone.
Yes. And by the time we learn it, we're not even creating anything anymore, so it's kind of irrelevant. We're just like,
I'm trying to learn if drinking stout at 8 a.m. is a good or a bad idea.
Yeah. It's gonna be a hell of an experiment today. See where that energy level is around noon from that early morning drinking. Well, again, it's stout, so it's like breakfast, and you can pour some coffee into it. Yeah, I can definitely feel the action on this one for sure. It's like, okay, I'm easing into Friday evening pretty well here.
I always
And speaking of that, like, I will let you get on with your early morning Saturday here in a moment. So the last thing I'll say is, well, one, certainly let us know, like, where people go to find Bonjoro. And then also, if there's anything else that you want to throw out, a message, shout out, like, just anything to cap the conversation, this is your closure.
Yeah. So if you want to try out personalized video, go to bonjoro.com, try it out. It's free. Chat, like, you'll get a video from one of the team, so you'll see what it's like. If you want to hit me up, go to LinkedIn, search for Papa Bear. I'm the guy in the bear suit. I think there's three people on there. I'm the guy in the bear suit. I think what I'll finish with, so we have an ethos we use here, which I think holds true, which is, we say automate processes but never relationships. That's what this is all about. So as a human, automate all the shit that doesn't need a human to get it working, so that you can invest in the things only a human can do, which can guarantee is building relationships with your customers.
Awesome. He ends it with the headliner right there. Beautiful. Well, thanks again for the time, Matt, and for being flexible enough to be willing to drink on an early Saturday morning out in Sydney. Hopefully it doesn't screw up too much of your day. I don't want that on my conscience, but I'll probably let it go pretty quickly here. But I really appreciate the time. And again, I know actually firsthand that I don't do promos and I don't say shit that I don't mean. I do like the product and I like where we're taking it. So I assume that it's even better now than when I was using it, and it worked great then. So yeah, tools to make business more human and more efficient at the same time, I think, are rare and really needed in our environment. So thanks for making one, and thanks for coming on Brews BizDev.
Yeah, awesome, Paul. Thanks.
Awesome. Have a good one.